okay, well, we need parameters. We need to decide what kind of tools, what kind of toys we are going to get our kids, since we agree that we're not going to get them a lot. And then I happened upon this philosophy, which is that children are alive. And so you need to give them things that are alive like them. Picture a field full of dandelions with sun on it. And now picture a child in the middle of that field. Doesn't that child just resonate with the field? Yes, the child belongs in that field. What belongs in the field with the child?
Mm-hmm.
A Barbie doll? Probably not. Barbie dolls belong in air-conditioned rooms with thick plush carpet and LED lights.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. So you may be wondering, what the heck? This isn't the right place to be. This isn't the right podcast I'm listening to. Well, yes, you're in the right place. But you know what? Podcast hosts get sick too sometimes. So we had on our schedule a podcast to put out there, and Mike, unfortunately, was not feeling well. So we just decided to call an audible and go ahead and just do it ourselves. So ourselves meaning myself, and I invited my sister, Regina, to come on with us. And so we're going to be doing the podcast together, talking about one of the things we just love to talk about, which is home and environment and setting up your home. And that includes the toys that your family is going to be getting this Christmas. So looking back, we've talked with her before, and we decided to this time give you 6 different questions that you can be asking yourself when you buy toys for your family. So we're going to, those questions, you're going to hear them in the podcast, and they are in the takeaways at the bottom of our podcast posting here. So, but before we get into the interview, I just wanted to remind you that we are going to be starting into our end of year appeal. And we are a nonprofit. We exist because of the generosity of our donors. We have downloadable free resources on our website. We have courses that we offer. We have things we're developing all of the time. We have our date nights that we do. All of these things Mike and I can only do because of the people who support us. So if this podcast, if our work through our website and all of our resources that we have developed, if that's been a blessing to you, just consider giving us a small donation, $25, $50. It's a huge help. And it's actually, to be honest with you, it's really a big encouragement to us that we are on the right track and that we are doing what God is calling us to do, and that what we're doing is of worth to people. Because when someone makes a donation, that says to us, someone's like, you know what? These resources were helpful enough to me that I'm going to part with my hard-earned money to support you guys, even if it's $25 or $50 or even more. So just wanted to invite you to consider giving. There's a link at the end here. You can follow us on social media. There's links on there. And because this is our 10th anniversary of the podcast, we decided to do something a little bit different with our appeal and talk about just the story of the podcast. And for those of you who are getting our emails, we have this little game where you're trying to figure out this, the key to our ministry. And so you have to keep reading the emails, finding the clues, and email us when you figure it out, and we will send you a free gift. So anyway, just a reminder to consider supporting our ministry, supporting this great work for families that we are so very passionate about. And we're so grateful to everyone who has supported us with their financial contributions and with their prayers. So you can go messifamilyproject.org to donate. But without further ado, we're going to get into my interview with my sister, Regina Doman. And you're going to see, if you're not watching this on video, you're going to want to watch this one, because we kind of go into her house and she pulls out a bunch of different examples of the kinds of things that she has for her children and for her grandchildren. So it's actually a really interesting video as well, or you can just listen in. So here we go. Regina, thank you so much for for joining us today. I know this is going a little bit unusual. We're just like playing catch up here because Mike is sick. And so, you know what? When I'm in a pinch, what do? I call my sisters and be like, hey, can you just jump in and record this podcast with me?
Got you covered.
So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because in raising all of our kids together, we had our oldest are only 2 weeks apart. We've kind of traveled this road of mothering and now grandmothering together.
Yeah.
And I've seen you have a very specific philosophy, if you will, about the environment of your home, because that's really, in talking with other young moms, I think that mothers don't realize sometimes how much the environment of their home speaks to their children.
Oh my gosh, it's absolutely so glad we learned that from Maria. You and I learned that from Maria Montessori around the same time.
Yes,
So
exactly.
yeah, I have 10 kids just like you do. So yeah, in a lot of ways, even though we've traveled different paths, our lives in many ways are very similar.
Yes, exactly. And managing our homes, what I think is always is very interesting, our homes look very different.
Yes.
We have two different personalities and
all very much. Yes.
But I think that these fundamental philosophies about the importance of environment come through. And so I want to give the moms listening this kind of give these principles to them and know that everybody's home is going to look different, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's not like, because every once in a while I'll talk to a mom and I say, well, this is how I do it. And she says, well, I'm a bad mom because I give my kids plastic toys. And I'm like, no, that's not the point at all. Like, we're not talking about good or bad. We're talking about choosing between the goods. And of course, we're going to make different choices in terms of goodness. And that's totally fine because God did not make us all alike.
Yes, exactly. So we thought it would be helpful and fun to have this conversation. And we're going to give moms and dads some principles about the environment in your home, which includes toys as we're getting ready for Christmas and all of the onslaught of stuff. But also kind of give some examples, maybe to kind of get their minds thinking, get their juices flowing, if you will, about, okay, let me think about this in a different way. So you want to show us, we'll just keep talking because it is a podcast. So not everyone's watching the video, but go ahead. Let's go ahead.
Okay. Well, come on into my house. Ignore the dirty dishes because, but messy family, right? That's okay. All right.
It's the perfect name because anytime anything goes wrong, we just say, oh, okay, messy family,
Oh my gosh. Well, welcome to my house. This is Shirefeld, the Black Cat Inn, and we have a little homestead here. And through the years, we've acquired many different toys. My kids quickly put together some of them. We're on the tail end of parenting. And so a lot of like the gift giving, now it's like the toy gift giving is now, we're transitioning over to grandchildren. But I do have a few examples of toys for different ages. And but let's talk.
Okay. So first of all, I just wanted to just kind of, again, bring out this whole idea and to emphasize to moms about the importance of their environment. And the first thing that I know you and I had talked about, or I should say, I think one of the key ingredients to what you allow in your home is it beautiful?
Yes.
I think I just want to talk about that for a second, because beauty is in, I want to say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Maybe that's not entirely true, but there's different types of beauty. Can you just kind of like expand on that a little bit for like, how can a toy be beautiful and why is that important?
Well, let me just extrapolate from something that you say a lot, is that God is giving you the grace through the sacrament of your marriage to parent your child. And that like a lot of times, like you can't really look at what other people are doing. You sometimes have to just pray with your spouse and make a decision together about how to parent your children. In the same way, like I would say that different people perceive different things as beautiful. And I would want to give you confidence. I always say this to parents whenever this issue comes up. If you think something is not beautiful, then don't give it to your child. I mean, other parents might give it to their child. That might be fine for them. But if you're like, nah, I don't like the way the expression on that doll's face looks, I just don't care for it,
Exactly.
then that's totally fine. I don't think Mickey Mouse is beautiful. Totally fine. If other people think he's beautiful for some reason, well, that's fine. That's them. So again, like there's choice. It's choosing among the goods.
Yeah.
And I say to parents, trust your instincts. If you don't think something is right for your family, whether that's a book, a movie, a merchandise character series, or whatever, take confidence in that because God is giving you the grace to parent your child and to spiritually discern what will best help them to grow.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, so I would say look for things that you think like that's beautiful. And
Yeah.
it's easier, by the way, if you do this when they're small children, because a lot of times, like when a child has a very different opinion of yours of like what's beautiful, that usually comes up when they're teenagers, right?
Yeah.
You buy like, oh my gosh, this is a gorgeous outfit, and your teenager is like, I don't like that at all. I will never wear that color.
Well, they're differentiating themselves from you.
Exactly.
And that's an important thing.
Yeah, they're supposed to do that when they're teenagers. But when they're younger, I think just, open them into your style.
Yes.
That's the style, your sense of beauty. And I think it's important to, if you, as much as you can, involve the dad in this too, because sometimes dads, there's always in a couple I found, one couple who really has strong opinions on beauty and another one who just doesn't care and is happy. If you think that's beautiful, my dear, that's fine with me. But,
Yeah.
yeah, so I would say shop together as much as you're possible. Online shopping makes this super easy.
Yeah.
A lot of times my husband hates any form of shopping mall. But online shopping, we can look at things together and be like, oh yeah, I like that. Oh yeah, and then you can sort of figure that out.
Right.
Oh.
Right. And you know what? Kind of like going into the next. So I'm going to, these first two questions, I feel like, so I'm going to back up for 1 second, just tell the moms and everybody who's listening, we have 6 different questions that we came up with, kind of like gates, if you will, to discern about your toy. So the one is it beautiful? Right. And according to your values in the home. And I think kind of like quickly following that is it annoying? Is there something?
Yes.
Do not buy toys that are annoying.
No. If there's a toy it's annoying to you, even a little bit, it will certainly be. If it's annoying to you, even slightly on Christmas morning, it'll certainly be annoying to you like 6 weeks later when you're pulling it off the floor or gathering up all the pieces for the 60th time.
Right.
And then you may then resent your child, and you don't want to be doing that. So give gifts that make you love your child more. Because that's one of the reasons why I think parents give their kids gifts that they really enjoyed. And one thing that I was thinking about as I was like pondering this conversation is that a lot of times, in order to get a child to enjoy the toy, the parent has got to commit to playing with the toy with the child to show them how to play with it. That's important. Now, when you have older kids, they take care of that for you. So I mean, this past year, my one daughter said, "Mom, you've got to give the little kids books that you gave us as kids that we really enjoyed." So like we started looking up all these vintage books that we had gotten. And here, I'm just going to grab one. I thought I put it in a convenient place, but not. We went back. Alicia, do you remember this book?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. She's like, buy that book and read it to the kids.
So well, you have to say the name of the book. You have to say the name of the book.
The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by A. Wolfe, as told to John Sieska. It's a great, funny story. It was one of the first of the fractured fairy tales. Fractured fairy tales have gotten really annoying, in my opinion, but this one was really good.
Okay.
So, yeah. So what I mean is, like, if you're going to buy a book that you enjoyed as a kid, you've got to commit to reading that book to your child.
Right. So they will love it. You want them to love what you love.
Because they may not see what you saw in it. So same thing, like if you're trying to introduce your child to a hobby that you really love, you got to think in your mind mentally, especially dads have to, I'm going to show him how to use this toolbox. So like this is a toolbox. One thing that we give to slightly older kids is like toolboxes and craft kits. I'm showing it to people who are watching the video. There's just a little toolbox with a saw and like, we purchased a few quality tools to put in. This has been used, so everything looks a little dingier right now. It does not look Christmas morning bright anymore.
That's okay.
But
real life.
That's exactly what you want with a toy, right? So yeah, and so you can give them the tools. Like probably the best thing when you're talking about activities, because I'd say when you're doing 0 to 3, you're giving them toys, and then when you're doing 3 to 6, you're pretty much giving them toys, but you're also giving them books. Once they reach the age of 6, that's when kids start to differentiate into learning different skills. And that's where you're really giving them, as you were going to say, toys that like enable them to make their own fun.
Yeah.
The sweet spot is like, if you have a little boy who's already grabbed dad's hammer and is hammering everything and is trying to saw things and trying to build things, the sweet spot then to give him his own set of toys, that's like a winner. But
can you show us maybe Polly, who's videotaping for us, can go a little closer to the tools so we can see what are they made of?
Okay, so this one actually, this was not the original packaging. We found a vintage toolkit from the 1950s. This is a plastic handled saw which I normally is like, what a piece of junk. But you know what? I've actually used this saw and it actually cuts really well.
Wait a minute. The handle is plastic, but the
The
blade is
handle is
metal.
plastic. Can you believe it? It's like cheap plastic. Look, it's already broken because of, but it actually works really well, which was surprising. I just kind of threw it in there because it came with the kit, but it turned out to be useful.
But the blade is metal.
The blade is metal. So this is a real tool. Like
Okay.
I've used it this summer to cut small cuts. And I was like, dang, this thing really works in terms of it actually being a tool. So good job, 1950s tool makers. Because it was in a vintage set. And this is a real hammer.
Yeah.
I don't give them plastic hammers unless they're toddlers. If they're toddlers, yeah, you're not giving them a real hammer. Most important, I always buy these things continuously. Needle nose pliers. They always get lost. I always buy them because we use them all the time. Just some screwdrivers and wrenches and things like that.
So how old was the child that you gave this tool to? The toolbox?
Probably about 7 or 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But they were already interested in helping daddy with construction. So I was like, perfect time.
Okay. So actually that honestly goes perfectly into the third question.
Yeah.
Does it teach the child how the world works? And
perfectly.
That is perfectly demonstrates that principle of things that are real. And so yes, real tools, but also things with natural materials. I mean, you and I have had this conversation many, many times throughout our parenting about the wood versus plastic. And then like stone, wool, cotton versus polyester. So can we just talk about tools or toys, things that teach the child how the world works? Actually, before you give me an example, can you just explain your philosophy of why is that important? Why is that even important?
And this was like I made it my philosophy, but obviously I didn't come up with this. Like I'm not that smart. I early on in my parenting, I knew as the former oldest child that I hated picking up the acres of plastic toys that my siblings always seemed to have, Legos and Polly Pockets and whatever. I knew that as the oldest child, I was always in charge of making them pick up the toys, and that really bothered me. So when we came, and my husband was also an oldest child, and he also had the same exact thing, except it was worse because they had 11 kids and more boys. So he was just like, we're not giving our kids a lot of toys. And so we were like, okay, well, we need parameters. We need to decide what kind of toys we are going to get our kids, since we agree that we're not going to get them a lot. And then I happened upon this philosophy, which is that children are alive. And so you need to give them things that are alive like them, like that teach them how, like the lady who, it was an article in Plain magazine years ago. The lady who wrote it, I don't remember her name, was the founder of the Natural Baby Company, which for a long time was the place where I bought my toys. And I don't think it exists anymore, sadly, but it was a really cool place when it did exist. She said, picture a field full of dandelions with sun on it. And now picture a child in the middle of that field. Doesn't that child just resonate with the field? Yes, the child belongs in that field. What belongs in the field with the child? A Barbie doll? Probably not. Barbie dolls belong in air-conditioned rooms with thick plush carpet and LED lights, right? And she's like, probably not like a plastic robot monster thing. No. So she's like, think about toys that would fit in that setting. And that sort of became my philosophy. Nowadays, for years, I bought toys from the Nova Natural company. I think they're online right now, novanaturalsingular.com. And it's interesting how often the photographs of kids playing with toys, the kids are always outside in the field. So that just sort of, and you can see that resonates. It's very intuitive, maybe feels a little bit like gnarly or whatever, but it does, that's a pretty good philosophy. And Maria Montessori, when I later studied her, she reinforced that by saying, give your child things that are real. Like give them real wicker work, and real wood, or real metal. This is a metal container that I once gave as a Christmas present. Or here, nowadays, it's so much easier to find wooden toys. Back in the 90s, it seemed really hard. But here, this is Fisher Price. And this is a really cool little toddler toy that, has different components that slide in and out. The balls, this is a well-played with toy. The balls and the hammer are somewhere under the couch.
Yeah.
But, this teaches the kids what wood feels like. It's like, I'm feeling this now. It's got a wood grain. It's got really bright colors. Sometimes you can see the wood grain through there. And that teaches the child about wood. The other thing about wood, I'm just gonna say, is it's repairable. Like when a plastic toy breaks, unless you're really good with the super glue, it's pretty much done.
Yeah.
But for example, here is a wooden castle that my oldest son gave to one of my younger sons as a present. I mean, it's a nice set. We got it from Nova Natural. Look at that. It's like got a gate that comes up and stuff like that. But if one of these things broke, all I have to do is pull out my wood glue and my clamps, and it's fixed again. And
Yeah.
it is new.
Yeah. And that's why so many of those wooden toys too can be passed down through
Correct.
the generations.
Oh yeah, like I was just talking to my son, who's now like 14, and I was like, "So what do you want me to do with the castle?" He's like, "I'm giving this down to my kids, Mom. Don't you dare give it away."
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, and there's smaller components of the castle. It's like beautiful red and comes from Poland, made by fair trade, etc. So I'm like, win. I think it's totally worth the expense because it's got longevity on it.
Right.
So and here,
go ahead. Continue.
Coming along with it, this is some of the action figures that they sell at Nova Natural, and my kids all know these because I bought them for years, and they're made out of wool and wire. So like I could literally make this myself if I got the right material. I've tried to make it myself. That's why I respect the artisans in Brazil, fair trade laborers who actually make these. These are moms who get to stay at home with their kids and make these little dolls. So I totally love them. They're super
So for those people who are just listening to the podcast, she's holding not a figure that's plastic, but a little figure made out of wire and then wool. And so the wire is kind of like the bones of it.
Yeah, and the little knight, he's got his little weapon case in the back, and actually we lost the sword, but my son has put a toothpick in there because the toothpick just works just as well as the sword that they provided. But they also sell beautiful little dolls. This is a little queen doll with her beautiful velvet cape and red dress. And they have all sorts of like fairy dolls and princess dolls and like colonial dolls and things like that. So if your kid is ready to bring their dolls on an adventure, we've always found that these fit the bill. There's like a nice variety, and they sell the same toys year after year. But like I said, moms, if like your daughter is like, I don't like any of these toys, you could literally sit down if you're crafty and make one yourself that exactly fits what your daughter has in mind. The other cool thing is your daughters could also make these toys themselves too.
Right. And that's a whole other thing, kind of going back to like the tools and, for girls for sewing, etc. But can we just talk for 1 second though?
I got to show you something though. I know you go, but I got to show you. And I know people may see it, but Polly, come over here. Speaking about kids making, here's a great example of this. My adult daughter made this fairy set for her little sisters last Christmas. I don't know if Polly, you can see it, but it's like got little wool and wire dolls, fairy dolls. And she just took all these things like shells and random stuff and like made this little house for them, including like, look, a tiny picture of the Blessed Mother. And my little girls, it fits all in this little case. My daughter, I just said, get some toys. And my youngest daughter just went and said, she set this all up. So yeah. So I mean, like, talk about making toys. What a great thing to unleash in your kids is to unleash their creativity and their agency so they realize that they can make the things that they see in catalogs. That's like so cool. And
well, it's a whole other part of learning how the world works, because of the natural materials. If other people in other countries can simply manipulate them by hand and create things, that means that I can do that too. And I feel like there's such an important lesson there with the natural materials, because it teaches kids to really trust what they're feeling and to learn how things break, to trust their senses. Exactly. To trust their senses at that sensitive period of formation in their life. Because if you're constantly, for example, on a screen, like, which would be the ultimate not trusting your senses, Oh,
totally. Yeah. AI is making that all worse, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, because it really kind of distorts. Now, it doesn't, maybe it happens for an adult, but I think especially for children who are at such a sensitive period of time in their lives.
Yeah.
I think it's even more important that they're not on screens that are unreal, or even using, plasticky toys that are doing things that don't exactly happen in the real world, but they are learning how these things work, and they're trusting when something breaks, or if it's heavy, or if all of these kinds of lessons that you learn through doing.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, I just even a moment, like, I know that some families are like, well, we got a 3D printer and we can print any toy. And I'm like, that's great. In a certain sense, like when kids are ready for that kind of creativity, but I wouldn't introduce it too young because it's better for a kid to actually have the trouble of like, I'm going to make myself a toy and figure out, oh, this is how this works and this is how that works. And they're going through the process as opposed to pushing a button of a machine that they could never make themselves. No kid can put together a 3D printer by themselves, all those components, you know? So they're really like, they can't be creative unless they've got something that allows them to be creative, where this sort of, it's very close to them, you know?
Yeah.
Like when you teach a kid to like sew or glue or craft or cut or things like that, like they really see the results right there. And that's just got a whole other level of education baked
Yeah.
into it. And
Right.
honestly, and then, as you said, it teaches them to trust their senses. And my in-law, brother-in-law, Dr. Nathan Schmidtke, gave a talk once at our Montessori school saying that that's the sort of thing that is the foundation of logic, because trusting their senses. And I've got a cat here who's like throwing up. Hold on, go away, cat. um, the foundation being able to trust their senses, that's the foundation for classical education and for logic, because they need to know that there really is something around them that doesn't change, that's
Mm,
infinitely malleable. You know, and like I said, a lot of times plastic and screens, that like they lie to us, not
yeah.
like malevolently, but they lie to our senses.
Yeah.
And teaching their kids to trust their senses by immersing them in this beautiful world of homemade toys is really, really a best foundation for a strong education later on. And like I said, it gives them agency later on. So since I was looking at toys, I think both of us were looking at toys from the perspective of a former oldest child. We were taking the long view. You know, we
Yeah.
just want to entertain our toddler for a few minutes today. We want them to grow up into, you know, a child who feels they have agency and feels that they can like think through things. And we want them to grow into a teenager who's able to seize hold of the vocation and make a difference in the world.
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah.
you're educating with the long view in mind, you pick things that foster that long view, don't work against it. You don't want to
Right.
be fostering things that you're later on going to have to undo.
And you know what? One
Yeah.
thing too that on so there's that.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing too I was thinking about a child working with those real materials is
Mm-hmm.
how very often real materials aren't perfect. There
Yeah.
are very natural imperfections.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that and like things don't always fit together perfectly. You just kind of have to even like gluing stuff, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
difficult. It can be there's a little bit of frustration in there, but there's something that's so important
Mm-hmm.
about learning that is that, you know what, guys, the way that as an adult, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to look perfect all the time. My people are not going to act perfectly all the time.
Yeah.
The meal that I make is not going to be perfect all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. And they're
Yeah.
learning this from the earliest of ages that, you know what? There is natural imperfections in the natural world that
Mm-hmm.
are actually quite beautiful and make things a little bit more interesting. But I think that and we take that for granted sometimes as adults. We think, oh, doesn't everybody know that? That kids don't know anything. Kids don't know anything.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
really they really learn everything
Mm-hmm.
in that childhood, and that is, I think, a really important um an important lesson, that is learned along with all of those other things.
Yeah, and just as an example, like once I tried to make like my own pipe cleaner dolls, and you know, in our early days of marriage, we had so much fun teaching our kids how to make these little, very, very simple pipe cleaner dolls. Oh my gosh, moms, you may think you can't do crafts, you can totally make this doll
Yeah.
out of pipe cleaners and embroidery floss and whatever. Once you've made that, it really gives you an appreciation for the talent that people have who can make
Yes.
things really well. So I'm thinking
Yes.
about like these dolls that I bought for years from the co-op in Brazil. Like I've made these kind of dolls before. These ones are definitely superior to mine, and they're worth like I think this was a $200 doll, but it's
Wow.
like everything here in this doll is handmade. Like the mom's crocheted the sweater that she's making. They made this little kerchief and like made her little socks that fit and like everything. And this is solid. Like if you tap her, like it's not as squishy. She's made out of wool, but it's not squishy. It's like solid, like a kid's skin, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Like it's so, it just has that plastic dolls don't really feel like human skin. Like, so when you cuddle them, you're cuddling something plastic. When you cuddle this wool doll, like when a child does, it's like, it does feel like it has that resonance almost of a human being without clearly being a human being.
You know what?
A lot more
Actually,
cuddly.
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What I was curious about your opinion
Yeah.
of dolls that are like look exactly like a baby,
I
like
think
those.
I think they're
I think they are too, and like
yeah.
why? Like can we just talk about that for 1 second? They're like real life, or they're called, like, I forget what they're called, because Claire has asked me for them in the past, and I've said to her, I'm like, no, because there's something about being like a person, but not exactly. You know what I mean? Like, what
Yeah.
can you
My
define?
my daughter Polly is nodding right along. Did you want to say something, Polly? I know she said not to talk, but what are you saying?
I feel like because they're so realistic, they're almost taking the place of something that's real, and whereas a child can still tell that that is a toy.
Yeah.
That's not a real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm even what came to mind is I once had the chance to talk with a very talented Catholic sculptor. I'm forgetting her name at the moment, but I was asking her about sizes of statues, and she said, as a Catholic sculptor, she makes devotional statues for churches and things like that. Her work is magnificent. She said the tradition is you never make an exactly life-size statue. Like when you make it, we're talking about a statue of the Blessed Mother. She said it's either going to be probably about 24 to 36 inches high, like that's
Yeah.
about it. We never make a 4 foot high statue. We always make that, or it's a super heroic size statue. She's like, emotional size, and we have heroic size. And we don't do anything that's the exact size of a human being. And I was like, why is that? And she's like, well, the point is when you're making a statue of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, or the Blessed Mother, we're saying is that they're not, as you said, like they're not exactly meant to be you. They're not on, the point is they're not on our level. The statue is pointing to a reality which is beyond us. Like a statue that is smaller implies that it's further away from you, so to speak. Because when a person is further away from you, they look smaller. So a smaller statue of the Blessed Mother is almost like this is what she is in heaven from that distance looking at you. But super heroic is like if she appeared in front of you, and she's 10 feet tall, she's clearly also bigger than you. Does that make sense? It's an intuitive thing, and I'm not explaining it quite the right way, but I think that, we feel comfortable with things that we know are not a replacement for us.
Right. Like I always think about like the real life baby dolls.
Yeah.
It's like this doll though doesn't have a soul. Like this is not an actual person, but I would want to treat this doll like a real baby because it's reminding me of that. And if I saw this doll just like tossed in a corner, it would be upsetting to me.
Right.
It would be disturbing to my spirit because it looks too much like a real person.
Right. But at the same time, it's not lying to me and pretending to be a person. It's clearly not a person, but I can imagine it. And also like the simple features of this doll. This is like a doll which just has eyes and a mouth, but no nose or anything like that. The child can then use their imagination to imagine, oh, this doll is sad, or, oh, this doll is happy. It allows for more interaction, which is why it has the very simple features there.
And actually, good job. This goes into our next question. So in regards to what you were just saying, the question is, how long will it last? And so that question kind of covers two different aspects of toys. Number one, how long will it last? Like, will it be passed on through the generations?
Right.
But also, how long will it last in the engagement with the child? So like what you were just saying about the features of the doll being very simple, well, that is longer lasting in the imagination of the child because the child can imagine the doll is sad, imagine the doll is happy, imagine the doll is sleeping. The simpler the features are, right? If you think about blocks, right? Blocks are so long lasting. Why? Because they can be anything. They can be anything. Like there's endless things you can do as opposed to something that is created just to do this one thing.
Yeah, the babies in the 70s like that, just like crying baby or wetting their pants baby or whatever. Like they only have one role.
Baby alive. I remember asking mom for a baby alive where you like fed the baby food, which you think about it now is like so incredibly disgusting.
Yeah.
And I remember mom saying, we have real alive babies. You don't need a baby alive.
Yes,
Anyway.
oh my gosh, toy commercials are the best. All gonna
Yeah.
yeah.
All of those, when the toys are very, very specific, it almost like limits how long the child will play with that toy. Because I remember always thinking when I would look at any toy before buying it, I'd think, how much time is this toy going to buy me? Like if this is a toy that they can only do one thing with, this doesn't buy me that much time. Okay, so I'm not going to bring that into my house. I want to buy a toy that is going to buy me as the mother more time, so it's more engaging of the child and their imagination.
Yeah, like you just said, it made me laugh this morning. You were like, I see some kids, it's like that craft kit, the kid can do that in 5 minutes, and then they're gonna want something else to do, and they're gonna come bother me. And I was like, yes, exactly. You want to craft. The point of a craft kit is so that time to do, and they can do it alone without me being always needing to be there. Like just something that sort of launches them, as opposed to something that just entertains them for maybe 20 minutes, a half hour, and then it's just junk in my house.
You know what? Actually, that brings up a really good point of the difference between entertainment and maybe engagement.
And actually, if I can speak to that for a second, I feel like if there's a principle of any kind, I would say that 0 to 6, the toys that you give your kids are going to be more general. Like blocks, things that open the child to the imagination. Like I said, the simple features on the doll, something that's very basic. Like this is a cradle I just kind of picked up. It's a basket cradle. The cat was sleeping in it before, so I'm like, you can do anything with this cradle. It doesn't just have to be a doll cradle. So it's very open. But then when the child begins to differentiate themselves and have interests, that's when you bring in things that are more specific. Like here's this sewing kit. Like I couldn't find the kit that goes inside. This is just an empty box, but this is a little sewing kit that I gave one of my kids. Or this little metal box here. This is representative of one I gave my kids. Basically, like he asked for a sewing kit, and it's like, I think they're still using it. It's just a little tin box, and inside there is a needle kit, like a needle folder, which I made them, and a bunch of beautifully colored thread. Some of it's been used, a tape measure, some pins. I was going to put a scissors in there, and then it's ready to go. And they still use this. So that's something like this was for a little girl who wanted to sew. And I've made, here, actually, Irene brought it down. My other daughter, my creative daughter, took a simple box from the craft store and made her a kit. This has her name on it, Irene's Art Box. And inside, she made the box, and I filled it up with, this is a well-used present here. She even did a mural on the inside of it. You can see all the paint. On Christmas morning, all these paints and brushes were new with this little mixer thing.
Sure.
She, in this past year, has used it a lot. Because she was ready to launch. She already was borrowing my paints all the time. And we knew we wanted her to have her own. And so we got her and her sister matching art kits. And like I said, we bought the, this ties into something you said later on, is that a lot of times if you give people a toy with many parts, you're a smart parent if you also give them the container that everything goes in, which is exactly a really beautiful special present, which would be it was a lot more precious than if I had just given her a stack of bottles and a package of brushes.
Exactly. Which kind of leads to our fifth question is, can this child care for this toy? So in other words, just giving, for example, a 6-year-old boy a huge Lego set could be very overwhelming. Like they're not going to be able to organize it. Those pieces are going to be all over the place. Could you give that to a 12-year-old?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, definitely. Definitely, because they can care for that. Will this toy even fit into our own lifestyle and environment? Like if you have a toy that's going to take up a whole lot of space and you happen to be living in an apartment, like your child is not going to be able to use that toy effectively. Like you have to kind of think about the child and their care, because it's not just playing with the toy. Because remember, this is going to be in your home. You're going to be picking this up all the time,
And actually, that's a really good point, because you and I both lived in small apartments for a while. And I was really inspired when I would visit houses of families with large kids. And sometimes the toys dominated the environment. You couldn't walk through the living room, but everything was everywhere. But then I went to other places and I'm like, wow, they have 10 kids, but there's like not a lot of toys here. And then I'm like, and then I looked and I was like, oh, there are toys here, but they're actually, what do you call it, inculcated into the environment in such a way that I
Yeah.
noticed them. Like they would have a basket like this, in tucked away in a part of their living room, that was full of toys. And actually, right now, as a matter of fact, I have my grandkids' toys right over here. So if you look over here underneath this couch, um, my little grandson has his toys in these two baskets, and these are a reasonable amount of toys for him to play with. In fact, I
Right.
can put them back himself, and he's like not even 2 years old.
Right.
Because
Right.
a lot of wooden toys and little box in here for asking. And here's my little grandson. Is he over here? Marky, can you come? No? Okay. He's like, camera, no. But what this is also another insight we had, and maybe this ties into your question, which is that how can I like the longevity of the toy? How much toys? Like when I have a toy, either I'm going to take care of it or my kid's going to take care of it. When we have 10 kids, we need our kids to take care of their own toys.
Yeah.
So one time we were at breaking point because like the house was just filled with toys, all sorts of toys with complicated things, as well as toddler toys and Legos and things like that. And my husband was like, I've had enough. We're getting rid of all the toys. And then I was like, okay, Tana, talking down from the ledge. But the kids and I came up with a strategy. We took all the toys in the entire house, we piled them on the kitchen table, and I gave each kid a basket that they could comfortably hold. Like the toddler had a basket this size. The older kids had like a laundry basket. And I said, you can only take the amount of toys that fit into this basket. Because
Right.
myself, that's a human sized parameter. I can ask a toddler to take care of this amount of toys. He's fully capable of doing that. But if I had a whole room full of toys, is there any way that toddler could clean up this room? No. So
He
why?
can't even engage with those toys, to be honest with you. It's too much. It's overwhelming.
Montessori, you don't want to set your child up to fail. You
Yeah.
ask them to do something, clean this room when they clearly can't do it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to ask them, and we do have to require our kids to pick up their own toys. That's just the way our life is. So we have to we have to set them up for success and not for failure. So
Right.
that sound like we actually that day we divided up all the toys that they actually wanted. The other ones we gave away.
Yeah.
We're actually very happy.
Mm.
From that time on, because from that time on, the amount of toys we had in the house was manageable for I think we had eight kids at the time.
Right.
And
Right.
we were having 10. So,
So, and actually that kind of goes nicely into our very last thing as we wrap this up is what are the limitations of our home?
yes.
And I feel like Advent is such a good time to do an activity like that. And I remember doing that during Advent. We would purge our toys. We'd
Yes.
go through and get rid of things. I would go through all of the toys that we had in the house, get rid of things that were broken or that we lost the parts to, or sometimes I would find toys that we loved that we had lost parts to, and I would purchase like replacement parts,
Yeah.
And it would remind me too of like, what did the kids really love to play with at different ages? And that would kind of help. That would help to inform what are the gifts we're going to buy for the younger children that the older kids maybe really liked to play with.
Yes. Yes. That's very true. And so, yeah. And the great thing about Advent and the season of Advent is when I'm saying to the kids, I'm not putting it on them. I'm not saying you have too many toys. Let's get rid of some or Santa won't buy you more. I'm saying, hey, this is the time of penance and of almsgiving. What can we give to poor kids who don't have toys? Like, are there, and so, we'll go through and like, we'll get rid of the toys that are broken. But sometimes I kind of challenge the kids. Is there something here that you still like, but you really don't play with? And it's nice enough to give to another child. And
Yeah.
I give them that opportunity. And many times they do give away things that I'm like, oh, you want to give away that? But a chance for them to actually be sacrificially generous. And that's a beautiful thing because they're not thinking, oh, I've got to get rid of this so I can get more. They're thinking, how can I be generous? And then, the whole point of Christmas is that we were not expecting baby Jesus. It's not like they're saying, come on, the stable and the manger and the shepherds. No, we had no clue how God come down to earth. So the gift of baby Jesus was like something that nobody was expecting. And that's how the Christmas tree, that's the point of the Christmas tree and the presents that suddenly appear is that all of a sudden, this this generosity of God is unleashed.
Yeah.
The Christmas tree is a symbol of the tree of life, the tree of life that was seen in the Garden of Eden.
Mm-hmm.
All life, and God had to take that tree away from Adam and Eve because they
Yeah.
were ready for that amount of life.
Right.
Christmas tree, the evergreen, that's why it's an evergreen, is like because it symbolizes that tree of life. And
Right.
it's laden with gifts. And we liked some years to put the nativity scene underneath the Christmas tree because Jesus Christ is the fruit of that tree of life. You know, the cross is our tree of life. And one family, my in-laws used to have this thing where that other families have done where they would save the Christmas tree, they'd throw it outside, and then during Lent, they would cut off all the branches and they would cut it in half and use it to make the like a large cross to put outside their house on Good Friday.
Beautiful.
Just to try to tie that, like that's why Jesus came. He came to give us gifts.
Right.
That's what we celebrate as Christmas, is that the unleashing of God's generosity, divine generosity. So that's why the gifts are surprises.
Yeah.
Like when we ask our kids, okay, so we always say, baby Jesus only got 3 gifts. So you're only allowed to expect 3 gifts. He got gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Now, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, those are pretty amazing gifts, right?
Yeah.
So what we say in our family is you're only gonna get 3 presents. You can only ask for 1, and you may or may not get it. Expectations low, but then of course we do try to get it.
Yeah.
And then so the 2 other gifts are gifts that they're not expecting.
Yeah.
But that also we try to make them amazing gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the best. That's where it's like, because there's only 3, we try to get the best that money can buy. That's and it justifies us spending a little bit more. Like we always give our girls, before they're 12, we try to give them a Waldorf doll because that's an investment. That's like a $200 doll. But I mean, my older girls still have their Waldorf dolls, and like like I know that your doll, Mary Grace, is like in top-notch condition because she kept the other dolls for the other girls, like they were very well played with. Let's just say they got a lot of use out of those dolls.
Well, you know what? I have got to run, but this has been such a really, really helpful. I really hope that this is really helpful for lots and lots of parents as they go through this. So thank you so much, Regina, for taking this time. And people can find you on your Substack.
Yes, I will post this video on my Substack. I do the culture recovery journals where I talk about, arranging our lives, like just from the point of view of a housewife on a day-to-day basis, how we can arrange our lives so to better bring about a culture of life that will pass through the generations. Like, what are things that you can do in your house right now with your kids that they'll want to pass down to their kids? That's really what it's about.
Perfect. And how do they find that? Just reginadoman.com?
Regina Doman at substack.com. And reginadoman.com will lead you there as well. Toy that I just repaired. I was just going to pull it out before when you were talking about repairing a toy. This was a toy our kids wore into the ground and lived in the garage for a long time. And I finally repaired it this summer. And
beautiful.
Going strong again.
All right. Thank you so much, Regina. Love you.
Love you, Alicia.
Bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I know that the camera was a little shaky there. So hopefully the video wasn't too hard to watch. But I really think that it's worth it to get some good ideas and kind of get your juices flowing to really be intentional about the environment that you're creating for your children in your home. So just to review those key questions to ask yourself before you bring anything into your home, whether it's a toys or items for your kids. First of all, is it beautiful? You know what? Everybody sees beauty differently. So when somebody else might find beautiful, you don't, or vice versa. Second, is this toy annoying? If you don't like something, don't have it into your home. Just get rid of it. But if you do enjoy a toy, even in your childhood, your child may enjoy that too. Third, does it teach the child how the world works? Children learn to trust their senses through using and manipulating and playing with especially natural materials. Fourth, how long will it last? Like, is it durable? Is this something that will last through generations or will last for a couple years? And also think about, how long is my child going to play with this? Is this just a push a button and then something happens and it's like, okay, I'm just being entertained? Or is this something that is truly engaging my child and engaging their mind? Fifth, can this child care for this toy, right? Is it too complicated for them to try to put away? You want to make sure that it's developmentally appropriate for them, that they're not going to break it easily, that they don't have to be, it's okay if they have to be careful with it, as long as they're capable of being careful with it. Okay. So kind of keep that in mind. And then last, what are the limitations of your home? Like, make sure this toy fits the lifestyle and the space that you have in your home. And really, I think these are really important questions to discuss with your spouse. So you should ask yourself, are we being intentional about the toys and items that we have in our home right now for our kids? And then I think it would be great to look with your spouse at those questions above and find out which one of them do they feel really strongly about, and then discuss that and find out, well, why do they feel really strongly about it? What was their childhood like? Is there some kind of reason for that? So just keeping all that in mind as we enter into Advent and the holiday season and everything. And I hope that this is really, really helpful for you. And just a reminder, please, if this podcast of our work has been a blessing to you, to consider donating to us at messyfamilyproject.org/give. And until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you.